What's up, geeks and geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown City Geekcast. My name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me on this chapter 19 Mandalorian breakdown is one and only Retro Ray.
What's going on, guys? Let's talk.
We also got the man behind the magic, the one and only Joe Garcia.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Excited to be talking about some Mandalorian. Let's do this.
And it's not a Star Wars stream without the great one himself, General Kenobi's bunker, Jose. What's going on, brother?
Hello there. Also, guys, so tonight we're actually trying something new and we're actually simulcasting to General Kenobi's bunker. So hopefully this is going on also over there. Leave a like, leave a comment, let us know what you think about this episode.
Absolutely. A lot to talk about. This is one of those episodes where it takes a very big twist or a big step into a new direction. And this is also setting up a lot going down the road. So if you haven't seen it, what's up, LeBron Fett? If you haven't seen it, pause the stream right now. Go check out chapter 19 of The Mandalorian and then come back and tell us what you think and hear what we got to say about it. So generally, I talk about sort of the summary and all that stuff. But first, I just want to talk about our initial reactions, emotions after watching that. So, Kenobi, gotta start with you, brother. Uh, did this episode exceed your expectations? Did it get you excited for what's coming? Was it a little bit of a downer because it spent a lot of time on someone we haven't seen in quite a bit? Your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I think you pretty much nailed the head. So I was very excited that this is the longest running episode we've gotten for Mandalorian. So I was like, all right, I am ready for a close to 1 hour episode. Let's do this. And then, we got this episode of Mandalorian. And so, it was different to say the least, I think. There's things that I absolutely loved about this episode that just were incredible, okay? And some others less so. All right, it was a little bit weird pacing. I'm sure we're gonna talk about it. Um, Overall, it did further the story of Mandalorian. However, not as much as one would expect out of a 1 hour or again close to 1 hour episode. And we'll talk about that.
Absolutely, Joe. What about you, man?
There's a lot of questions still, but I think I'm not going to ruin it because we're going to get into the deep discussion. But you kind of know where this is going, and that I love the beautiful play here, the setup, and we're going to talk about that as well because I don't know if you all caught on, but there was a sleight of hand movement there, so that's what I want to talk about. There were a lot of Game of Thrones things going on here, and I know that if Matty B was here, he'd be enjoying it in particular because he's a big fan of House of the Dragon, so he would be like, oh man, I dug this episode, I'm really into this one. But it's great to see a different facet of what's happening with the people who were officers of the empire and now how they're being kind of acclimated back into society during this era of peace. That's something that we have not seen before, and I like the human aspect of everything, kind of peeling the curtain back and you being able to see what is it like to live in this era, now. So I thought it was good. I really enjoyed the episode.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Retro Ray, your initial thoughts, sir.
I loved it.
Yeah.
First thing that seeing Bo-Katan with that dogfight, and then Mando, that right there just sealed it for me. On top of everything else that went down, kind of old school. I was telling my wife, and I need that shirt that says Bo knows now, but just me and my shirt thing.
Absolutely. And I'm going to kind of be in the middle of some of you guys. So I really enjoyed this episode. It showed us a lot of new aspects of it. And I feel like there's a lot of setup here, but it raises a lot of questions. And so that's why I find this episode extremely interesting. And I'm so glad that they spent a lot of time and they didn't just rush through all this stuff because I've been, and we'll get into some details now of the episode. I've been a huge supporter of Favreau and Filoni and their grand scheme and grand plan overall. And I've always felt that, and I've said this on multiple episodes, on multiple streams and channels, not just my own, that not only are they trying to give us certain aspects of the Star Wars universe we've not seen before. They're also trying to right some things that the fans have criticized before. And the biggest thing they'll have to do, the challenge for them, is to try and get the fans, all of them, not just half of them, to be big supporters of the sequel trilogy. And I know that's a huge feat, and it's something that I felt was necessary to do because one of my criticisms of the sequel trilogy was that you had this first order come out of nowhere, and somehow they went from being part of the empire, which had been decimated in episode 6, The Return, and somehow they became this overwhelming force among the galaxy, able to destroy planets while the Republic was in full control of the galaxy. So it was already starting, sort of, I think, off on the wrong foot with audiences, trying to get them to believe that this could possibly happen with the hero Luke Skywalker, like, patrolling the galaxy and whatnot, with the Republic in control. So, I feel like this is the very tiny seed right here. Like, these are the first potential remnants of what the First Order might become. We're starting to see little tiny factions, right? This might be just a tiny cell, if you will, of the remnants of the empire. And sure, the Republic's like, hey, let's take all these folks and let's make them unique and honest members of society, and that's great. But we're already seeing that, not everybody's playing nice here, and I really enjoyed that part. Let's backtrack. We start this episode where we left off with Mando and Bo-Katan still in the mines of Mandalore. I saw half of this coming. I didn't see this other half. I said that Bo's gonna have this come to Jesus moment where she didn't believe the fables, she didn't believe the lore, she didn't believe the religion. Now, all of a sudden, she not only is a believer, she's got full proof. Like, she's seen Jesus' tomb pretty much, and now she's becoming somewhat acclimated. It's really interesting that she's playing these cards so close to her chest. She can tell Mando, she can tell these other Mandalorians that, you know what, she's already seen the mythosaur, and she's gonna play nice and everything, but she's keeping all this really close to the chest, and it's very interesting. Either she's just a poker player all the time, or there's something else at play, and I'm really wondering where her head's at. Is it just that she feels like she's worthy now, or she belongs? Like, it's a great arc for this character to somehow not give a damn about anything these guys believe in, to now believing more than anybody because she has firsthand experience and evidence. It's just amazing. Kenobi, your thoughts on where Katan's head's at right now?
So we left her off, basically had given up, right? She says, you know what? I have no support. I got no troops. I got no ships. All I got is this really nice castle, and we see how that goes this episode. But and this really cool looking droid. All of a sudden, like you said, she comes face to face with a fable, right? With a legend. It almost literally smacks her in the face. Um, so she has about 30 seconds before Dane wakes up to be like, okay, what am I doing with this, right? Where is this information? And I'm thinking, in her head, she's okay, how can this further my agenda? So she very quote unquote casually asks, did you see anything down there, by any chance? Did you happen to see a gigantic dinosaur in the water? And then it's like, nope, I didn't see anything. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. um and so she's like, okay, well, I'm the only one that knows this as of right now, right? uh should I start, saying or laying claims that I saw a mythosaur, a being or a species that we've known has been extinct for thousands of years at this point, and with no proof, right? Or, and here's where I think this is going, or do I wait for the right, audience to hear this, right? And who do we know that kind of loves that kind of stuff? Legend, the creed, the ancient ways. None other than the covenant, right? Din Djarin's covenant, which lo and behold, she ends up with at the end of this episode, right? And I kind of started getting a hint when she was piloting her ship, just being sort of casual, and they're just talking, blah, blah. And she still had her helmet on. I was like, huh. I bumped into that a little bit. I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, she usually, can't even like spend 30 seconds with it on and she has to take it off, right? And then of course, everything happens, all the action, sure. But then at the end, she's like, hey, by the way, you're you kind of got a pass here too. So if you want to take it, it's yours, right? Like you are a part of us right now because you've met all the criteria, basically. And she's like, oh, what? Gasp, surprise! I can't believe this is happening.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, but I guess I'll take it. I'll join you guys. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I kind of see it as being premeditated. I wouldn't say necessarily planned because I don't think she had planned to see a mythosaur down there. But I think her being a very intelligent person, right, and very manipulative up to a certain point. She's like, okay, how can I get the best out of this information, the best out of this situation? So the way I see it is, at the end of this episode, right, all of a sudden she's got a covenant, right? So she sort of got her troops back, and yeah, there you go. That's beautiful. And then and now all we need is sort of a few ships to transport them over, and I think these guys are gonna fight for me because I can claim that I saw a mythosaur or that I had a vision of where one is laying, or basically I can produce a mythosaur, right? Which is again the ultimate prophecy for these guys. So I think that's where we're heading. I'm actually pretty excited about that. I want to see where she goes with this.
Yeah, I didn't see this, and it played out so beautifully. She didn't take her helmet off. She
Yeah,
also bathed in the living waters.
exactly.
I should have seen this at the end of the last episode. I'm like, oh, she could totally get in now.
Yeah,
She's part of the club. It
exactly.
damn it, I was too focused on the mythosaur. It
Yeah,
didn't
we all
it
were.
didn't process like what are the ramifications of her
Yeah,
getting in the waters herself. And
exactly.
it's so simple and it's just chef's kiss. So yeah,
Agreed.
this opens up a whole another world of possibilities on what would go on from here. But it's freaking awesome. LeBron Fett says, you know what, guys, chapter 19, I liked it. It's awesome. Legacy Nerd is in the chat saying,
Yeah.
yo, what's going on, sir? Josue says hello. Let's see. Do-do-do-do. Well, we're gonna get to Dr. Pershing here in a little bit, but yeah, glad they laid Dr. Pershing's story out there. Story well done. Definitely. And got a couple of highs in here. Awesome. What's up? What's up? What's up? I'll get caught up on the chat in a bit, I promise. Joe, I know you got a bunch of theories. You mentioned that when we first started, so lay it on us, man. What do you got?
Yeah.
So what's going on with Bo-Katan is that I think she doesn't really fully believe what she's seeing at this point in time.
What?
She saw the mythosaur, but she's asking, hey, Din Djarin, she's asking, did you see anything? Like, she wants to make sure like she wasn't tripping. Like, I did see that, right? Like, did you see something? He's like, no, I just fell in and it was deeper than I thought. And she's like, no, because with the bombing and all that, it shouldn't have been that deep to begin with. But she's looking for reassurance that, yes, she in fact did see that. Once she understands that he didn't see anything at all, she's like, okay, well, maybe I just should STF, shut the F up and not say anything, because that's a kind of an ace in the hole right there. She can play that card at a later time, so she's like, fine, whatever, we're gonna go ahead. And now she has no place to return home to, and that's kind of led her to be a little bit pissed off, of course, losing her palace. But more importantly, when she was having a conversation with Din Djarin, she was like, well, where are all these tie interceptors, not tie fighter, tie interceptors coming
Interceptors.
from. That's an awful lot of tie interceptors, you know. And you're saying some to refer to something like an awful lot of tie interceptors for a warlord. I don't think we're dealing with the warlord anymore. They've been teasing
No.
this for
No.
quite some time, and I know Star Wars fans have been going crazy across social media. Maybe they're alluding to that Grand Admiral Thrawn will finally make his debut, and that would be on, the Mandalorian. So who knows? It could be true, but one of these things that you hope for. But if it does happen, everybody's going to lose their shit, man. Everybody's just going to be screaming, yelling, and social media is going to erupt. But we've seen that the Mandalorian and the people behind Star Wars, aren't afraid to go ahead and take some chances and drop the mic, have those drop the mic moments like we saw with Luke, So I think we're gonna be they're teasing something that's coming, and we're gonna be very happy when, let's say, if in fact Grand Admiral Thrawn does make his debut. But another thing that kind of was interesting to me is Bo Katan now seeing that that's a way in. That's what I'm saying. It's getting Game of Thrones here because that's something I don't believe she realized either. Oh, I did get in the water. I haven't taken off my helmet, and these people want to go ahead and bring me in as one of their own, and I don't got a place to live. It's like a saying from John Wick 4 from last night. We homeless people got to stick together. You know.
Yep.
So I think that she sees, okay, they're welcoming me, into their convent or whatever, commune, however you want to say it. But she's got pieces to the puzzle already falling into place. She knows that, her city, the home world, has breathable air. It's not cursed. It's very much alive. She has the mythosaur that she can go back to. She knows where the dark saber's at. So the last piece to this whole puzzle is execution. When does she want to go ahead and finally put all these things together and say, hey, let's go back to my home world because it is very much alive. Let's go ahead and reestablish the Mandalorian society. And while we're here, let me go ahead and challenge Din Djarin and also tame the mythosaur. So there's no mistakes about it, and who is going to lead this new race of Mandalorian people. So I'm thinking she's just waiting and buying her time for the right moment to finally spring the trap. So she's gonna play nice for the meantime. So well played, Bo-Katan. Well played.
I do like that aspect and that theory. The only thing that doesn't sort of sit 100% with me is that she was not sure of what she was seeing. I think she was 100% sure of what she was seeing, and she just wants to make sure that she's the only one aware that there's a mythosaur down there. Because if anybody else saw it, then she cannot execute her plan, like you said.
Well,
So
that's
that's
why she
why.
was asking. It's like, I'm not tripping, right? Did you see something? She's like, no, okay. Let's
But you know
just
what? Because
quiet,
if he did see it, she might have killed him right there.
Yep.
But
You think
Because
so?
you got to tie up all loose ends. She's the only one that needs to know right now. She's going to use this information to further her agenda, right? And she needs no witnesses, like nobody else. I mean, even Grogu didn't even see it, so like he has
he
no idea.
probably sensed it though, because he sensed that little bastard sensed the TIE fighters. You're gonna tell me you didn't sense the mythosaur? Come on, man.
I was wondering what he was taught. I mean, he was babbling. We didn't really hear anything,
He's
but
doing
you
that little
think
baby
he was
talk. Bah, bah, bah,
sensing
bah, bah,
the
you
tie?
know?
You think he was sensing the tie interceptors? That's what it
Yeah.
was.
He was trying to tell daddy, hey, we got some shit happening over here, You're gonna tell me that little bastard didn't sense the freaking mythosaur? Come on, man.
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering that too. Would he have
Well,
caught that?
he also it was right on cue when both of them said this is the way. So I was like, is he trying to say this is the way? Like, and then of course, both of them look at him like, what's going on, buddy? And then they get blasted, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I mean, I can go either way on that scene. I know that there's been the talk that we're gonna hear, Grogu like actually speak. And I'm not entirely sure that means basic anymore. I don't know if this thing, speaks Huttese or something like that. Um, So he might have been already talking and we just don't know it.
But he's not going to sound like Yoda if he talks, though, because Yoda
No, no, he will
talked the
not.
way he talked because of his mentor
Correct,
or
of his
his
master,
master who
right?
trained
Yeah,
him. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, obviously, the tone of voice is definitely not gonna be the
Yeah.
same. But yeah, no, he's gonna talk. If he talks basic, he's probably just gonna talk regular basic, right? Like just like Yadley, basically, right? Like just
Yeah.
normal. Um,
Yeah. Pour
but
some out for Yaddle, man.
yeah, seriously, Seattle. Um, best best kept secret for what is it, like 25 years or so. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, so it's interesting. Again, I don't know. Bo-Katan has been kind of shown in both lights right now, right? Like we first saw her, and she's like, you know what? I don't even care anymore. Like we know that she's been trying to get
Yeah.
the throne of Mandalore for what 20 plus years.
Yeah. She
Maybe
lost all hope.
Decades.
exactly right, like
Yeah.
decades exactly. Like this has been her thing. I did love actually when they show up to the I guess to the covert of Mandalorians and Paz Viz like, and who are you, Night Owl? I was like, oh, that is so cool. That was super cool. I love that.
Absolutely.
So for just in case anybody out there doesn't know, so the Night Owls were the squad, or the how can I say it, the sort of like smaller faction within Dead Watch that Bo-Katan was leading, right? So she was basically the commander of the Night Owls, and historically they were, in her grand majority they were female Mandalorians, right? And so they had that sort of pattern on their helmets. So I thought that was really cool that Paz
Yeah.
Vizsla, identify her as one.
Is it just me, or did you guys? I mean, this is just me thinking out loud. So I get that feeling that Grogu's gonna have the same characteristics that from Star Wars Rebels, where he has that sensitivity towards the animals,
Like Ezra, you mean?
Ezra did. You know what I mean? I
That'd
have
be
a
cool.
I
feeling.
don't know. The little bastard couldn't sense the mythosaur, so
Well, he's not, shy away from trying out all kinds of delicious living beings, in the previous seasons. Like
Right?
he
Right?
went crazy with the frog lady's eggs, the spider eggs. It's like, hey, I have thought he was gonna bite off, Babu Freak like that first episode. I was like, no, don't.
I was so worried for him. I
Yeah,
was
me too. I
so
was like, no,
worried.
please no.
LeBron
Uh,
Feds in the chat saying he should speak. He's already 50. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely
right.
right. But like it's kind of like the opposite of dog years, so we all understand that part. So he's still, a toddler at this point.
yeah. But he's 50 years old. You'd think at some point in time, somebody would have taught this brother some sign language or something, man. Like for real. You
Some
can't
some
you can't
baby
form
sign language.
sentences. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Like do something.
I want to try and do the math in my head. So Yoda died at what, like around 900 years of age, right? Something like that.
Just
Yeah.
about, yeah.
So 900. This is roughly the first 1/18th of Yoda's life. If an average person's what, like
He's probably like 10 or
80 years
something.
old, yeah, he's probably younger than that. He's probably like five or
Yeah,
less
maybe
than
around
that.
that aspect.
Yeah, like for real. They can't have like a little pad or something, he can write on, or like they said, get him text to speak, something, man.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, come on. You're going to tell me that we're in the future here? Stephen Hawkins was talking to that little machine that he had, I mean, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I would think, but yeah, we'll figure that part out. Let's get to Dr. Pershing now. It kind of felt right that this episode was one where they would really start to take a big, not a twist, but just start changing the direction a little bit of this season. And I think this was the right moment, and it gets really interesting in a lot of ways. We talked about this amnesty program. They're using previous Empire employees and putting them through this amnesty program, and it honestly, in some aspects, the Republic and the Empire are a lot of the same. I like the whole oh gosh, mind flayer device. It's same thing, and sure, the Republic probably doesn't want to use it as the Empire was using it, but just the fact that they're willing to kind of put people through this process, it really kind of paints that gray area of like, the Empire wasn't all that bad. and I love it when they kind of do those things. Like
Oh
there
yeah.
were some things that they would probably agree on in a lot of ways. But I like that they're kind of putting this picture out there. I mean, these are the things we don't think about, but these are definitely some of the things that have to happen in order for this universe to transition back to control of under the Republic. But I really liked it. And now we need to figure out um, what the long game is for. Oh my God, forgot her character's name. Who's the one that mind flayed Pershing at the end here?
Oh, the
Oh,
one girl from Moff Gideon's ship.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the chick from Gideon ship.
Elvia or something like that.
G68, I think that's what they gave her her
Yeah, her
acronym.
destination.
Elia? Was it
Yeah.
Elia? Elia? Something like that?
It might have been. Let me look it up. But yeah, we knew we were gonna see her, more, right? We've known since just about the start of the season that was one of like almost confirmed. Um, it was interesting.
Yeah, her name
I
was
did.
Elia Kane.
Alien,
Elia
yeah.
Kane. I love
Um,
that name, by the way.
yeah, pretty cool. I so I did enjoy the part about the New Republic having like their own, what was that called, like Project Paperclip, like when they sort of start recruiting like people of a certain skills, right, that they would deem like beneficial. So that was introduced, like those what do they call them, like reintegration camps, that was introduced in one of the novels, Alphabet Squad, with obviously with one of the pilots. She was like an ace pilot for the Empire, and she was never on board after Operation Cinder, all of that stuff. And so she gets recruited. So kind of the same thing here. It was kind of weird to see that, not weird, but I guess to the point of what happened in the story, to see a very bright scientist, right, sort of like on the cutting edge of cloning and genetic technology, and he's just pushing paper, right, like the equivalent of like shredding like old documents, basically. So you got this borderline genius, and you're having him like file, like past due tax reports. And so that was interesting, and of course that was on purpose to make him seem like his work wasn't really mattering like anymore, as much as he thought his previous work was. I did like Aliens line when they're walking down like downtown Coruscant or on that square, and she's like, yeah, I've been here before. It is different now. It's like it looks kind of the same except for the cogwheels. Um, but she did say, we thought we were doing good, and I kind of felt like she shone through, like right there, like she laid out, a little bit more honesty than she meant, right? Like the character, I mean, as in, hey, I believed in what the Empire was doing, right? Like I thought we were like bringing order and peace to the galaxy. And then of course, it kind of seems like she's still on board with that. But I thought initially that the objective here was to get him to say yes to continuing the research, right? Um, which he did, but apparently that was just part of the setup, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I I can't believe that she just really really wanted to torture him with that new device, like, and that was like the end game, right? Like that was, this is my objective, and I'm gonna go through all this thing just to like get to mess with the you know watered down mind flayer. So I'm sure there's something else going on. We don't see it yet. My only gripe, honestly, is the time that we spent with them. I think it was a little bit too much. Uh, the story, I agree, makes sense. They are, I think, trying to portray something that's gonna pay off. Maybe not even in this season, right? Like it might be in the next or even the next season, right? Like we're like you said, we're trying to bridge all the way to the sequels, right, or the sequel era. But yeah, we only get 8 episodes, and this one, spent 40 minutes on these guys, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that could have been down to like 20.
Yeah, I got a theory behind that. So I wanted to tell you this.
Let's go.
It's all sleight of hand. So Pershing is being set up because she's preying on his vulnerability
Right.
because he's new, you know, and she knows exactly what she wants. She knows what her objective is. So she's conning him into going to those shipyards, right? They
Right.
get inside the ship. They go directly towards that. Was it that facility, that medical facility? It's what is it, like a lab or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Did you all notice the vial of blood that was on the table?
Yeah.
She never
No.
took her hands off of it.
Right.
This was all one big setup because she needed someone to take the fall.
Yeah.
She wants to look like the good guy. The whole objective was not Pershing. The whole objective was for her to go and get that vial of blood, which I almost can guarantee it has to be a vial of blood from our little dear Grogu there.
Yeah.
And she looked at it real quick. She held on to it. She never put it down, and she hit that thing in her pants somewhere.
Right.
And she knew it was happening. She knew. She put her hands up too. She had a flashlight in her hand. That was it. Sleight of hand. She hit exactly what she was there to get. So the whole time was not Pershing. It was what Pershing needed to do, which is take the fall. That's where it got Game of Thrones in there. And to go ahead and make matters worse, she mind flared the bastard
Yeah.
at the end. You know,
Yeah.
thanks for all your hard
That
work.
was just exactly.
You know, wink, wink. I got you, brother. And she
Yeah.
went ahead and cranked it up. So now
Yeah.
he won't remember nothing. You know,
Exactly.
It's
And I figured because I mean it was just like too quick, right? Like they barely get there and she knows exactly where to go, right? Like which
Mhm.
Star Destroyer, what deck, what gate to go in. Like it's not even that she had to look it up in a map or in a manifest or anything like that to say, oh yeah, this one Star Destroyer still has a lab.
it's kind of like she was
And she
already
just
there before.
exactly.
You
Yeah.
know,
She had already scoped it out. Yeah. That's what I thought too.
no,
But
like
she
she was on that ship before. Like she knew what was going down. She
Yeah.
was with Moff Gideon for God knows how long. So she knows all the nefarious things that were going on with his ship and why he needed little Grogu's blood. You
Yeah.
know,
well, she was training him. I'm not training him, but she was testing the whole time when she's like, they're in that little park area and they're eating, I guess, like equivalent to a popsicle, and
Oh,
she
Yeah.
tells them to touch the rock. So she's testing them to see
Right.
how far she can get with him, and then slowly she started working him, like you were saying, to
Yeah.
get him to build that trust with her, and then
the whole kicker is in order to go ahead and make this whole thing work, she plants the seed and watch it, and she's going to watch it grow because it has to come from him.
Yeah.
You
Of course.
He has to have the want to go there. She just gave him the little nudge, and he did all the rest on his own.
yeah.
And that son of a bitch never saw what was coming. You know, oh, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make everything better. And the stupid thing with this New Republic is they're a bunch of morons. You have all this gear from the Empire, technology, ships, everything. I get that they don't want to go ahead and have that idealistic view anymore of the remnants of the Empire. But as they said before, they're struggling, right? They're trying to erase every facet of it. You don't have money, you don't have control, and you want the power to bring peace to the galaxy. All these things don't run cheap, you know? So instead of just outright destroying this technology, you need to find a way to integrate it all together so it can actually help you as tools to bring about that peace that they want to the galaxy. Because in order for things to work, you have to make people understand one another. And right now, they're just kind of the flip side or the second coming of the empire, where they are trying to bring about peace, but they have no idea what they're doing. So
Mhm.
what they're doing with the people that were in the empire, the old soldiers, they're trying to reintegrate them into society. You're still persecuting the people that you're trying to liberate. You have become not a democracy, but a communist regime. So you're becoming the thing you hate. So it's like they're going about it the whole wrong way. Instead of hating what came before you and what you try to destroy and bring about peace, learn how to integrate this all together. In other words, in order to bring about peace, you have to first learn how to understand one another. If you can never understand one another, you can never move forward because they're always going to be the people that resist. You know?
Ooh, well said, sir. Well said.
Yep.
Let's see here. I think the actual end game for her is to replicate his previous or prior research. Is she going to replicate it? I'm not 100% sure about that. But everything that he needed to replicate his research, she is now in her possession.
But you got to
Like
watch Bad Batch. that
Mm.
one, the one that they kept. The I can't remember what they
Kaminoan.
call them.
It was that mountain facility that they have
Mount
where
Yeah,
they're
Texas.
doing all that nefarious research of cloning and all that.
yeah,
Yeah, and they got one of the Kaminoan scientists
yeah,
there.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's my theory, is that they still have one of the Kaminoans really behind all that.
they got two actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
but
that's what I'm saying. If you think it, because I think if Bad Batch is gonna still tie in some way to Mandalorian, I think that's gonna come into play in somehow, into live action.
Hey,
I
I'm
was going to
down.
present a theory to
yep.
General Kenobi, and I
Oh,
think me and you have kind of read a whole bunch of Star Wars lore that we kind of know already where it's kind of leading. We already putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And what we know is that it's cloning is going to be at the core, right?
Yep.
Whatever steps they're going to take. And of course, they're probably going to mention Palpatine or whatnot. But beyond that, we know of other clones because we've played video games that we've seen
Yep.
other clones that were force sensitive, right? So maybe the move is to some way, somehow, and this is just a theory. I'm not saying that I know for sure, but presenting it to you, General Kenobi. I'm a big fan of another series called Battlestar Galactica,
Oof.
right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
in
yeah. That's some
there,
good
Let me
stuff.
start.
what was the thing that they did the best with their you know with their foes, with those robots, the Centurions,
Yeah, the silence.
the Cylons, with the old ones, they had the Centurions, and then they had the ones that were flesh and blood,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that were more like humans now. They weren't the actual robots anymore. They made a resurrection ship, right?
Yep.
Maybe the play, if you want to live forever, if you want to go ahead and have an army that will live in infamy, is to go ahead and make some type of a resurrection device.
Right.
In other words, where you might die, you can be resurrected because the essence can live in another vessel, just like
Yeah.
we've seen with Palpatine. So
Yep.
maybe somewhere down the line, somebody will actually devise such technology to go ahead and have a force sensitive who is very powerful be able to, transfer their essence into clones that can actually be almost as powerful as the original.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
that's just something that I've been thinking about over and over again because it seems like not only in the Bad Batch, but also in the Mandalorian here, they keep
Exactly.
referencing cloning technology.
Yeah,
What do
it
Oh
you
yeah.
think?
seems. I think we're gonna converge in some way, shape, or form, and probably sooner rather than later, right? Because they've been kind of pretty obvious about it, right? This last few episodes of both especially the Bad Batch, right? That last one where, not today's, but the previous one where Crosshair,
Yeah.
wakes up in the hands of one of the cloning scientists. I'm like, okay, well, what are we looking for here? Are we looking for a test subject? Are we looking for a sample of a unique clone's DNA? Right? Like an enhanced one. And so the other thing that I was thinking about, Joey, when you were earlier today, was that I don't know if you remember, but and I forget which comic book it was, when they were trying to clone Palpatine the first time around, all the clones kept going bad and
Yeah.
like basically nuts because they were force sensitive, right? But the theory behind it was that since they were clones, they had the exact same signature in the force, and so they had, like, imagine like a multi-stream of minds in their own, right?
Like a mind meld. It's too much for
Exactly, like
them
a
to
mind meld,
handle.
and it was just too much for them, right? So that was scrapped and those were destroyed, you know as best we know. And that's when we had sort of like the blank slates that you're referring to, right? Again, sort of kept in those tubes, right? And they were just mindless, literally waiting for Palpatine to infuse, his mind into those, so that they could become an actual, person, like
Yeah.
an actual Palpatine. But it was only one at a time, right? Like you said, it's sort of like the resurrection chip. You can only copy, or you can only download once, right?
Once. Mhm.
Even though there were multitudes of the same model, like the Cylons, even they could only do it one at a time, right? Like it wasn't like copies of a copy, like it
Like an
was
army of
exactly.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So I'm thinking if they're gonna run into something like that, like you said, and I think a big clue we got tonight was when he explained what his research actually was, right? And he's like, "Hey guys, the Kaminoans, which name drop first of all, the
Yeah.
Kaminoans figure it out, right? We can get one strand of DNA and we can clone that. That's a done deal, right? That's been done, decades ago. My research was kind of, cherry
Combining.
picking, right? Like he said two donors. I don't know if that was,
He said multiple. I think he said
Yeah.
multiple.
He said multiple.
and like recombining, right, to the best of the abilities. So that's when I was like, okay, are we talking about, uh midichlorian infused, right, clones? And if that's the case, we're talking about foot soldiers. Are we talking about, of course, something like Snoke, which we know exists? So I'm
Mhm.
sure that's the end game, but I kind of want to see the steps, to get to that. And I think we're gonna get a pretty big hint, coming up on both season finales here. Bad Batch is coming up, just about the same time as Mando. And so, yeah, it's gonna get pretty interesting. But it definitely has to do with the cloning.
Yeah,
We also got to
was it?
remember too, we got
Yeah,
Christopher Lloyd we haven't seen yet. So
yeah,
who's he
Yep.
gonna be?
yeah. I was
It's
gonna
gonna be
tell General
interesting.
Kenobi one of the things that I thought about is like an RC vehicle, a radio controlled car, right? Kind of like we saw with the Phantom Menace with these droids that were all controlled by the mothership with the
Yeah.
signal, right?
Oh yeah.
If you wanted to do the same thing with the clone army that was force sensitive,
Right.
you need to have a signal to go ahead and tell them exactly, hey, this is what we want you guys to do. But in order to go ahead and have multiple copies of the same person, you would just need to add some type of inhibitor chip.
Right.
That way, they're not feeding off of the consciousness of all these other clones. They would think they were the only ones,
Right.
and you could feed them information, kind of like an RC vehicle or something,
Yeah.
and make them do what you want them to do. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they're just following orders. And why can't you engineer them to do that? You
Exactly.
know, because we've seen that with the Bad Batch, as far as like the clones and all that, they had to put chips inside of their heads in order for them to be
To
in
comply.
compliance.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like all the theories, and this is actually something that I wanted to theorize when we first even saw Baby Grogu. We met Dr. Pershing for the last time, and he was wearing the outfit that was from the facility on with the Kaminoans, on the facility on Camino. So, what is the purpose for all this stuff? And again, I just think that we're not just watching these series that are just going to lead to nothing. They want to try and show us that the sequel trilogies started from somewhere. the
Yep.
the sequel trilogies, the seeds were planted long before, and that's why these events were allowed to happen to begin with. That's why these forces were allowed to grow and to conquer to begin with, because they all started from specific or certain events. I am really interested in finding out where these tie interceptors come from,
Yep.
and is Elia working with or for the same individual that is running and leading these forces with
Right.
these tie interceptors. I mean, these could be two stories that are going to be converging in this season, and that's why we're doing this right now. So this is all very interesting stuff, and I can't wait to find out how it all turns out. But I am really excited, and again, I don't know if anybody's just thought about it or seen it, but like they're going to show us, because nobody really bought it in the first place. Like why Palpatine came back to begin with. Again, Favreau and Filoni, it's probably not something they were asked to do. It's just something that they decided. We're going to fix all these things, and this is going to be one of those things we're going to fix. Palpatine came back. This is how. It wasn't just like a snap of the fingers, like we kind of showed in the movie, in the trilogy,
Yeah.
in the final movie.
Yeah.
But this was a very long game, and one of the things I was worried about, because I talked about this before, was if you need to bring back Palpatine or someone like Palpatine, you usually have to have a source in order to do that. And so I'm really hoping that we don't have to lose little Grogu eventually, because we
Right.
know Palpatine comes back. We know what happens, and I don't want him to be um, used to make that occur. So yeah, that would be devastating in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, the
Agreed.
other thing I had with Grogu is that they need him because they need to be able to harvest metachlorians, right? That's really why they're after his blood. But in Palpatine's case, Palpatine did sire children. So if you want to go ahead and get, his DNA or a good copy of his genetic material, you just need to go to the next living relative, you know? So if you have the next living relative where you can go ahead and extract their genetic material, and you can go ahead and get the metachlorians, like you want the metachlorian count that you want it to be really strong, and you have the, let's say, the, I guess, the blood sample from little Grogu, you have the makings of exactly what Pershing's technology does, which is the combining of different genetic material in order to make one vessel. So, in theory, it's possible. You just need to be able to have refine the process in order for everything to happen. And I think what you're seeing with the Snoke clones is
Yeah.
there's something unique going on with that actual vessel or inside that body that they have to keep using him, or using that fractured body, because let's face it, it's all messed up. It's like a Frankenstein thing, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That's exactly what Snoke is. But for some reason, that is the only vessel that can actually withstand, I guess, the stress that comes along with Palpatine being able to control the vessel. So there's going to be something there that'll explain everything, I'm sure. But there's a reason probably why he looks that way.
Right.
Well, I mean, it also too. You look at back into the Bad Batch, where and even Clone Wars, where they are taking force sensitive children from when they're kids. There's no telling how many kids they have taken blood from those kids. And like you were saying, and he was saying in the show, how they're taking bits and pieces. What if they're taking a bit of this person, and they're combining them all, and they're trying to create the most, I don't want to say most strongest, but they're trying to create a superior force sensitive clone of some sort that, like you were saying, that's why they're losing control and they can't.
Yeah.
They're
Wouldn't
losing
it
their
be
mind.
badass though if they did bring about a dark Jedi? We haven't really seen that before. We've heard
Yeah.
the myths about them, and they're not Sith, they're not Jedi. They fall
Right.
somewhere in between, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm sure General Kenobi knows about that too, because me and him, we know a whole lot when it comes to Star Wars lore. So he knows what I'm talking about when I'm referring to a dark Jedi.
Yeah, and it's the only thing is it'd be hard because they're not, well, the grand majority of them are not canon anymore, right? That's
No.
not to say
Yeah,
they
well,
cannot
to
be
an
brought
extent,
in,
yeah.
because don't get me wrong, I would love to see something like that. I think it'd be nice to finally get that, like third option, right?
Yeah.
When you're force sensitive and actually trained. So, yeah, I mean, maybe in Ahsoka, dealing more with what means to be a Jedi. Maybe we see one of them there. But yeah, it'd be pretty freaking cool to see something like that. The other thing I was thinking about when Ted was talking about those tie interceptors is those things don't have a hyperdrive, right?
No.
Mhm.
So they usually need a carrier,
Mhm.
and that was a whole lot of tie interceptors, right? So I would think I'm thinking Star Destroyer at this point, right? Even if it's not one of the Imperial one, like Imperious ones, but maybe like an Acclimator, a pretty decent sized one. Um, so I'm like, okay, who has the resources, right, for a Star Destroyer at this point, And most warlords don't. If you remember, even Moff Gideon like wasn't on a Star Destroyer, right? He was on a cruiser.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, who can be, above Moff Gideon at this point in terms of power and maybe even rank, right? Uh, so Pelion is somebody that I, thought of. We haven't heard anything from him since Rebels. Obviously, there's Thrawn, but I don't know that the time is right yet for Thrawn. Um, I think they're gonna save him for a little bit more time in the future. But yeah, so I'm pretty curious now to see who has the resources first of all, because tie interceptors are not cheap. Okay, not
No.
even when the Empire was in full swing, like not every ship was a tie interceptor, and there's a reason. Like they are expensive, right? But that's why they're better fighters too. So and they had bombers, and again, ordnance doesn't come
Yes.
cheap. Like bombs are not that cheap, especially when you drop so many. So and obviously somebody has it out for Bo-Katan, because what I was thinking is, man, that castle has been there for a few centuries probably at this point. Uh, Everybody knows Kalevala, like it was in the Republic, or yeah, it used to be in the Republic, then it went neutral. Like everybody knows about it. Everybody knows that Client Christ was there. So I'm like, okay, well, why today, man? Like that just seems like a little bit random. Like
Yeah, I
why?
think there's a thing behind that too. General Kenobi is
I think so too.
yeah.
Um,
Bo-Katan was just chilling on that on your palace, right? Like
right,
she was
for
done
potentially
running.
months at this point.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
years, or could have
yeah,
been years. We
exactly.
don't know.
Yeah, with the recent comments from Fabro, we don't really know how much time has passed, right? We
A
Yeah,
long while. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like longer than everybody thought.
yeah,
So I'm like, okay, well, why today did you decide to take out, to bomb the castle? Like again, because they went straight for it, right? Like it didn't seem
yeah.
like they were searching for it or anything. Like they were like,
They
boom,
knew.
here it is, drop bombs, got out, right? Like they knew
Yeah.
exactly where it was.
I think she knew it was coming because she's tired of running, right? She got
Yeah,
tired of running, and she kind of told Din Djarin, "I've made a lot of enemies."
yeah,
But that's all she said. I've made a lot of enemies. So
yeah,
it's like if you're tired of running, you feel like you're down on your luck. This is the last place you have to go. It's like you're just waiting for something to happen because
yeah,
you know it's coming. And
exactly.
the next thing is she can't blame Din Djarin for this happening. This is not his fault. This was already premeditated, and I
Yep.
think she knew it was
Yeah.
going to happen. You know?
Well, then also too, in those TIE fighters, when you saw them coming out, you noticed a real big cloud, and that's where they're coming out of. I'm wondering if a starship was behind that cloud.
Yeah, it could be. I mean,
Could
like I
be.
said, that those things don't travel at hyperspeed, so they always got to be dropped off. Um,
The mothership has to be nearby.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hey, did y'all catch the music though? When
It
they
was
were kind of in talking with Dr. Pershing,
Yes,
that ominous music, dude, I got chills when I was listening to that.
yes,
I was
yeah.
like, damn, that was badass, dude.
So I couldn't pinpoint it, to be honest with you. I just like it did struck a nerve. I was like, I've heard this before, right? And somebody mentioned that it's John Williams from, I think it's The Rite of the Resistance, something like that, from an Force Awakens. That scene when Poe and Black Squadron ride in like by the water, like that song. So apparently they threw that in, which I thought was pretty cool. Like I said,
Very
I didn't.
ominous.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't recognize it like right off the bat, but I it was known to me. So I did have to look it up because I was like, man, this I've heard this before.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard it before too, and I know it was in the newer series of
Yeah,
the Star Wars trilogy, but I couldn't remember exactly which movie it was,
yeah, same here.
but I remember hearing it. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely great. And like I mentioned when we first started, it raises a lot of interesting questions. Everything we've already talked about, and like you guys just mentioned right now, who has the resources to have that fleet of tie interceptors and bombers? Like it wasn't just the interceptors. I was like, oh my god, but the bombers and then the additional fleet of interceptors in the sky. Like this was a well coordinated, well resourced attack, and somebody went out of their way to bomb just the remnants of.
right.
This wasn't even like these people were a threat. They didn't have a fleet or anything to like attack
It
people.
was personal, Ted.
Yeah,
That's what I'm trying to say. It was a lot for not a whole lot of gain. Like you weren't
yeah.
taking out a major resource of the Republic or anything like that. So yeah, very personal, like Joe just mentioned. Overkill is what I would call it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know all about personal because when I was putting up my fence last spring break, me and my son were back there digging for 4 hours trying to pull out this boulder from the ground. And when I finally yanked that damn thing out and I threw it on the ground, he was going to throw it away. I said, no, leave it there. He said, why? I said, it's personal. So I'm going to be drinking later on. And when I got to take a piss, I'm going to piss on that rock.
There you go. That
It
is
was
the
personal,
equivalent.
Ted.
That is the equivalent of bombing the castle, right there.
Exactly. It was
Yeah.
personal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Star Wars Sith is in the chat saying Thrawn, Thrawn, Thrawn. There could be only one answer.
Yeah,
Pretty
right.
much is what he's getting at.
So again, I think all of our minds, normally go to that because that's the big bad that we know is sort of coming, right? But again, I don't know. I actually kind of hope it's not him right now at this point. I'm kind of hoping we get a mid tier boss level first, right? Like I said, like a Paleon or like another admiral that's got the resources out there. But yes, we're gonna get Thrawn. Don't worry about that. Like it's coming for sure.
So, question again. Me, this is just me because of Christopher Lloyd. I'm a Christopher Lloyd fan. So remember, Star Trek. He played a Klingon villain. Do you think he could be that admiral or
Yeah,
that person controlling that starship?
yeah.
Could
I
be.
think yeah. There you go. Bombing the castles, man. Got it.
I like it.
Um, I think so. I actually think it's not even that far of a leap. I think he's first of all he's the right age for some of those guys. In the old stories, I
Yeah.
mean some of those were like career Navy officers, so they be old by this point, and or they'd be old by the time they made it to admiral or even grand admiral. Some of them. So I'm all for that. That actually, like I said, I don't even think that's a big leap. Um, but like I said, I'm kind of hoping that we do get uh maybe the Moff Gideon's boss, let's call it, like his immediate boss, maybe.
Yeah.
And you know how they said that Moff Gideon escaped on the way to the war tribunal, and then somebody would say no, that's just a cover up, right? But the point is that it seems he didn't
Gone.
make it to the war tribunal, right? So I don't know. That's interesting to me.
No, very interesting.
I mean, that could
Absolutely.
also be him that actually bombed her ship. I mean,
Yeah.
bombed her palace.
Yeah, it could be, right. It's like, you know what? I was holding on to this, this one, my very last Star Destroyer with all of my resources that I got left. Like, that's it. But I'm so, ticked off at this chick that I'm just gonna bomb her spot, right? Like bomb
Yeah,
her
that's a
place.
possibility too. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
If he didn't make it and he did escape, that could be him.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think about that.
One of the things I think we overlook here and is what's going on, because the focus has been on like everything going Game of Thrones right now, references to Andor with this episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Sometimes the things that you have to look out for are the things that are lying right under your nose.
Yeah.
And that's who are still friendly to the Empire, because there are people who are still friendly to the Empire are now integrated with the New Republic. So maybe we're going to start seeing the beginnings of was it called the New Order or the First
the
Order?
First Order.
The First Order,
Yeah.
So maybe we'll start seeing some of that and starting to unfold here, because maybe those numbers will start rising as the people who were let's say soldiers of the Empire. Let's say when you're a soldier, you want to do your job. You just don't want to be delegated to being at a desk job doing mindless work. That gives you no purpose. So some of these people that, let's say, joined up with the New Order or the First Order, maybe they were just tired, of the being behind the desk and really not putting their skills to use.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
could see that. They were used to pushing around people across the galaxy, and now they've been reduced to paper pushers
Yep.
or just glorified admins, pretty much, for the
Well,
Republic.
LeBron's fat.
Paperweights. They're paperweights, man.
Yeah.
Well, LeBron Fett said it. He said it here. Good soldiers follow orders.
Yes,
There
sir.
you
No,
go.
he's referring
There
to
you
Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even that. I mean, you think about it. I mean, even in Bad Batch, where the one guy. I mean, if you saw the last episode, where he didn't like the clones. He felt the clones were not superior to the current soldiers they had, and they treated them like they were no one. I mean, that episode. I'll be honest with you, that episode was great. I mean,
Yeah, that episode was good.
that episode was so freaking good. It was
With
crazy. at the very
Crosshairs. You
end.
mean Crosshairs?
Yeah,
Finally.
Crosshairs. What he
Yeah.
did at the end, it just like it was him with the straw broke his camel's back, basically.
That was a very deep and very dark episode, kind of showing you what's happening within the I guess the ranks of the Empire, and how they once used the clones to get what they want, and how disposable they are, and they really don't mean anything at this point. They're just meaningless relics of a bygone era. They got to make
Exactly.
way for progress now. They're aging out, and they're like, I think secretly what they're really doing is like, okay, it's time for retirement. Let's take you into this room to go ahead and get the formalities done. And they just shoot them. They get them in there all at once and just
pretty
gas
much.
them. Boom,
That's what I
we're
was
done.
thinking too.
Yeah. Happy retirement.
Yeah, exactly.
Save the Empire money.
Yep, exactly.
One quick line that I absolutely love that we haven't talked about yet is Dr. Pershing laying on this table as he's about to get mind flayed or just mildly mind flayed, and he's trying to tell this officer, this Mon Calamari officer, that it was a trap, and it was just like got a little
I
chuckle out of
know.
me,
The irony.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
Yeah.
and it's like he was like, I know that line.
Yeah.
He kind of looked like I remember that.
I,
I recognize that. Yeah.
yeah. I actually kind of love the way how the I guess like the rich people and like the politicians like how the guy says like, "Oh, can you believe I was almost drafted?" And she's like, "No, that was the Empire." And he's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Empire, Rebels, New Republic, it's all the same." Like they're so rich that they do not care like who's like even who's in power, right? Like they don't care about the wars, they don't care about like the cost, like they're so above it all. Like I was like, man, that's kind of crazy, like to think, right?
No,
um
not all of them oppose
but
the war. War is
no,
good for business.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that's what I was gonna say. I'm sure somebody made a pretty penny like out of it. That is one scene that I about the only one scene that I could say I rescue from the Canto Bright like casino
Yeah.
sequence when the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I sell X-wings, I sell TIE fighters." He's like, "What do you mean? Like you're selling to both bands?" Like, yeah, it's just it's money's money, right? Like
just
whether
business.
whether it comes from the Resistance or it comes from the First Order. He's like, I don't care. Like I get to spend it. So
You know what'd be the irony of ironies, General Kenobi?
what's up?
If they go ahead and have like, hey, they order a whole bunch of parts for the Galactic Empire, right? They need TIE fighter engines, or they need ordnance,
Yeah.
to go ahead and refuel their stock. They're replenishing stock here. And in that same order, in that same ship, they have an order for the Rebel Alliance,
Yeah. That'd be
Hey
awesome.
man, we got parts for everybody. This is
Yeah,
paying
exactly.
customers.
We're yeah. Whoever pays, we don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, not to spend too much time going back to episode 8, but that was one of the weirdest. That one like threw me for a loop. It caught me way off guard, but telling your audience that none of this matters is pretty much what it was. What it came down to. Like
Yeah.
this entire saga, this entire
Yeah.
franchise, the motivations of your characters, nothing, none of it matters. These people don't care who wins, who loses,
Right.
none of that stuff. And it was the weirdest, strangest thing, sort of not a subplot, but just I don't even know, just a sub message that you put into your Star Wars film that none of it matters. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter who wins or who loses. It's gonna go on forever, like that kind of a thing. Super strange, sort of, to tell
Yeah.
your general audiences. And again, it's sort of something that's thrown into this episode, even though it's sort of kind of a throwaway line. It's similar to that message that came out of episode 8, and it might be one of those reoccurring things I keep talking about, trying to fix the criticisms of past Star Wars films,
Yeah.
Filoni, what Favreau doing.
Yeah.
And you can say I'm wrong, but it keeps happening where they keep bringing up metachlorians and M count and the Sarlacc pit. Like, we will see Jar Jar eventually. People
Oh
who
God.
criticize Jar Jar, he's coming back, and we're closer than ever. Like, we're on course on now. So yeah, he's just around the corner. I actually
Dude,
thought we'd see him in this episode, but we
I want to
didn't.
see
So yeah,
Hondo. That's who I want to see, Hondo.
there you go.
Hondo Onaka.
Yeah.
The Bronx Head says, "I really hate episode 8." Yeah, you're not alone. It was honestly just the strangest sort of Star Wars film to date. It's not for any other fault I can pinpoint other than it wasn't a well planned out trilogy. Had the entire trilogy been sort of in that vein of episode 8, might have been a fantastic trilogy, but
Right.
just the fact that it wasn't cohesive made episode 8 kind of stick out and feel really disjointed. They're affiliated is in the chat saying, "Yo,
Yo.
what's going on, man?" Dave Lozano, the episode 8 Canto stuff was a commentary about today's politics and war
I was going to bring
profiteering.
that up, but I didn't know if that was a good thing to bring up in the podcast.
No, absolutely, absolutely, definitely. just very strange to tell people in a Star Wars film that
Yeah.
the wars don't matter.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing that's happening right now with Ukraine, and Russia. You have all these other nations that are trying to go ahead and lend aid, but at the same time, they're going to be profiting off of the war and off of casualties on both sides. It's not a good thing at the end of the day when you think about it. Yes, you're trying to help people who are oppressed, but at the end of the day, there's casualties, and there's real world consequences. And I think that's some of the things that kind of mirror what's going on with Star Wars and how similar the world building is. It's very well done.
Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
definitely. I agree.
Let's sort of find a conclusion here. There's a couple of threads that we've been talking about. Number one is Bo is definitely keeping her cards close to her chest, and when the right moment appears or the right opportunity comes around, she may definitely make a play at leading this faction of Mandalorians. And that's kind of, I think, what we're all trying to say here. But beautifully done how they kind of pivoted her character, and I just think it was extremely well done. Elia, on the other hand, the other thread that's going on here, she's definitely working for someone else. I don't think, as a prior communications officer, that she has any idea what um to do with this information. I'm actually still trying to figure out, like, sort of what she gained here. Do you really think it's just the blood that she gained here? Was it the tools that Pershing put together for her, or is also Pershing getting, like, severely mind flayed also part of it? Does he survive that? I don't know if he survives that, or maybe she's just like erasing everything. But then he's not useful to her going forward. If
Yeah. If
it
it's wiped
seems
out.
like.
He was the fall guy, Teddy. That's all it
No,
was.
I totally get
Yeah.
it. Totally get that.
There could be also like, the seeding of, it's like, hey man, look how the New Republic ended up treating you, right? Like you came over to their side, you try to do good, right? And you got, first of all, you got shafted for it, and then that you even got, tortured, which of course, sucks. And so maybe, yeah, there you go. Maybe come back over to us, right? Maybe somebody else from the Empire makes contact and says, hey, you know what? uh, Over here, we still appreciate your research. You'll be giving everything that you need to continue it and do good in the galaxy, right? I mean, I don't know. They could be trying to hit it from multiple angles, right? If nothing else, like you said, they got the blood. I'm not too sure who has a copy of the data for his research, right? And he did like handpick some of that equipment, right? So if nothing else, you saw what he picked out, right? So you're like, okay, you know what? That kit that he was putting together, just get 20 of those and send them out, right?
Right.
So it could have been on different levels too.
Yeah, she's playing both sides though.
Yeah.
She's very good at what she's doing. That espionage
Oh
kind of
yeah.
spy thing going on, like Andor. She's a very good actor. know,
Yeah.
so she knows exactly what she's doing, and I think her whole job in this whole thing is just to follow the orders and do what needs to be done for in her mind the greater good.
Yep.
you know because how is the new republic better than the empire? They're still oppressing their people in some which way or form. It's not making things better. In fact, what the empire was doing in a weird way is they were bringing order to the galaxy, even though they were forcing people to
Right.
do things. A lot of the people, when they were liberated,
Yeah.
were quite upset because they didn't have that structure anymore.
Right.
Because when the new republic comes into play and takes over, there's no structure.
I was gonna
Everybody's
say
just
it's
doing
just
whatever they
chaos.
want.
Yeah.
Wild, wild west. So it's like
Yep.
they're like, we want to be oppressed again because at least we were taken care of.
And
So
to your
yeah,
point, when the guy in the cubicle says like, "Hey man, like I'll be honest with you, we were super, backed up with work.
behind.
Like we got an inventory of this, blah blah." And then he says, "We're decommissioning the Alliance fleet." I was like, "Dude, you don't even have like warships anymore. Like, so the New Republic doesn't even have, battle cruisers or anything like that. So
They're dumb. That's
to
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
to your point, right? How can you
Yeah.
police the galaxy or try to keep some sort of order? If any pirate with like two ships can wreak havoc on a system, right? If you don't have enough ships to combat that. So yeah, I see that. They just traded the oppression, let's call it, for chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that was another thing I wanted to mention. Did y'all catch that? The Tongues Day and the Bendu Day.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So Tongues Day, right, which apparently is a day of the week. So tongues is the original species that settled Mandalore back in the ancient days. So they were actually an alien race out of Coruscant,
Oh.
and they found I forget the name of Mandalore before it was called Mandalore the planet, but they basically found them, and you're like, you know what? We like this planet. They had a bunch of mythosaur. They almost killed all of them, and so they became the first like Mandalorian warriors. And then, of course, through the ages, they sort of died out. But they were called the Tongues. And then the other one was the Bendu Day. Like, yeah, exactly. Uh, the Bendu, as in the creature that's in the middle of the Force, not light side, not dark side, the one that came
Yeah.
out in Rebels. Um, which I think comes from like one of the early drafts of George Lucas, but for the Jedi. I think he called him Jedi Bendu or Bendu Jedi, something like that.
Yeah.
Like way, like before.
Yeah. Jedi
So
Bendu.
so I thought this was pretty cool.
Yeah,
One of the
that's
things I
pretty
thought
cool how
about
they
that
did that.
girl was maybe she's early remnants of the New World Order.
Yeah.
That she's kind of like the beginning
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Yeah,
It
very
could
well
be.
could be.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, me and you got to talk though, General Kenobi, because we can go on and on forever.
Oh
Like we
yeah,
can be talking about the force-sensitive creatures and how they hunt and all
I
that. Because
hear
to
you.
me, that's interesting, man.
Oh yeah, same here, man. I kind of missed
Yeah.
that too, like level of detail, right?
Yeah.
6.5 out of 10 episode. What's the plot this season?
No.
Archer, there are approximately 27 plots in this season, so one of them is gonna be awesome. Don't worry.
I agree. I think they're playing the long game. They're playing the long game. Everybody is, and it's going to pay off. There's just a lot of steps that are necessary to take because the sometimes, and we went through this with the sequel trilogies, when you try and do something really awesome without explaining how we got there in the first place, the payoff doesn't work. So in order for the payoff to work, you have to show the steps.
Yeah.
You have to stick within the realm of possibility. If you start telling us that, hey, this new faction of the Empire is taking over the galaxy, now, then
Yeah.
it's too big of a pill to swallow. It Not all the fans are going to jump on board, and you really just start losing the audience, and you're jumping the shark and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It really is that they're slowly trying to tell us something, and I'm really interested to see what it is. This whole cloning deal, this business, has been happening since the very first season, and the fact that they're still on it, that they're still going with it, it means something. There's something big here,
Right.
and the only end game I can think of is Palpatine. All roads lead to how Palpatine comes back. I'm not trying to tell you that the entire point of the Mandalorian is Palpatine, but just that it's trying to show us that there was a road that led to the return of the Dark Lord. So that's what I'm just kind of leaning towards, and I've been on that road since the first season. The fact that we're on season 3 now, and we still don't know what the hell the point of this
Yeah.
cloning stuff is, is actually telling. It really is. But first, we're gonna go through this Bo-Katan stuff, and that's all really good. And I'm really interested to see what happens. The fact that all these people wear helmets all the time, and you really can't tell what their facial expressions are,
Right.
is both a good thing and a bad thing, because it's almost like you can kind of feel what they're thinking,
Right.
but you might be completely off base because you can't see a damn thing. Even with Paz Vizsla, before we jumped on the episode, we were all kind of saying, "Ooh, he's giving off some real like dark vibes. Like he has some animosity towards Mando and Bo. Like, and we could just be reaching with this stuff here because we can't see anything under that damn helmet.
Yeah.
But it does feel like he has some issues with them being here. Like, even though he's bathed in the waters, there's 100% proof. Bo's been on her own for God knows how long, and we already know, and it's probably already spread around that she doesn't really care about the religion. Then why? Why is she here in the first place? And he
Right.
might have issue with that. Or he might know that, you know what? These two, can't trust them. Can't trust them.
Mm.
They're too much of a gamble. Anything could happen. You don't want to bring people like that in here, and that could be a major issue. So yeah, I think any of those things are a possibility.
How is
Lozano
Bo?
says, "What?
I said, how is Bo Katan supposed to lead the Mandalorian people if she doesn't have an audience?
Sure.
You know, who's she going to go back home and lead? Her subjects are going to be the rocks and the animals that live on her little island, the mythosaur. You can't lead people if you have no people following you. You know, she needs to go where the people at, get an audience, beat Din Djarin, and become the ruler of what's left. You know, that's why she's following him. I know it, man. I'm telling you, she's a chess player. I dig it. You know,
She absolutely is. She absolutely is, and it's going to be beautiful when she decides to finally execute or put this plan into place. But
Oh yeah.
it's the definitely the opportunity has to arise, or somebody just bombed her castle that was falling apart to begin with.
Yeah.
Maybe she
yeah.
reaches out to these guys and it's like, hey, eye for an eye, man. Let's take it to whoever these bastards are.
Yeah.
I'm
That could be
laughing.
interesting.
It has me laughing because what they did to Bo Katan and they bombed her palace was the equivalent of a drive-by here on the west side where I live, Little West Side by Marbach, you know? That's basically what they did. They did it gangster style, man. It was a drive-by, a galactic drive-by.
There you go.
That's
I like
priceless.
LeBron says, do you think we will get a Boba episode in Mando? We're gonna get multiple cameos from a lot of characters because the title of these shows don't matter. These are all chapters in a much larger book, and the book is anything post episode 6 and before episode 7. Like that's how big this book is, and so yeah, expect people throughout. Nerd Affiliate says, we're making too many excuses for this episode. LOL. Casuals have checked out because the story is all over the place. I really
It
like what this
wasn't.
episode did. We got a lot of cool
Yeah.
action in here. You know what I really liked was Mando's N1. As soon as he took off vertical with it, he did that Batman 89 thing
Yeah.
where like
Yeah.
you go straight up and then you just like shut the engine off and it just kind of like free fall, turned around and free falls. I was waiting for him to just like go in front of the sun or something like that, but it didn't happen. But he did free fall
Yeah.
afterwards and take it to that TIE interceptor.
Yeah.
Snoke first, then Palps. I want Circus back as Snoke and explore that. There you
Yeah,
go.
that'd be nice.
Yeah. No, man, I dug the episode, you know, and it's like I said, you know what? I think we're onto something too because
Uh-oh.
I don't think anybody got that she was after that vial of blood the whole time. Go back, rewatch the episode, pause when she's on that table and look what she gets in her hand, you know? I'm
But
looking at
why did she need Pershing for the vial if she knew where this laboratory was already?
she needed someone to take the fall. She can't go down for this thing. That's why I'm telling
But
you.
she's been there.
She needs to have him take the fall. She planted the seed. She's watching it grow. He has to go there with of his own free will, so he doesn't know that it's an actual trap. And she set it up beautifully. She already knew this was pre-orchestrated. This was going to happen. She tipped everybody off. She goes in, gets exactly what she was there to get, and then she makes it look like he was there to go ahead and keep on continuing his research, which is exactly what she probably told them. This is exactly what happened. And what does everybody do at the end? They commend her for it. Oh, you're one of the ones that is a success in our program. You've done everything.
Mhm.
It's you're a testament to the program working, blah, blah, blah. She just knows how to play the system, man. I mean, that's why Pershing was there the whole damn time. She was just playing the brother and he fell for it, man.
Well, not
I'll
even
give
just
I'll
him.
give you that one. She seems like she's, the good puppy. Like she got a biscuit and gold star for the week. She's getting in the good graces of the Republic. Maybe that comes with a kind of more responsibilities or a title change and gives her
No, she
exactly
can
what she needs
extract more
afterwards.
information.
I'll
She's a
give you that one.
spy. She's a spy. She's just doing her job. She's playing it to perfection until somebody can finally oust her, which is going to take somebody smarter than her. So I don't know. We're going to actually see that here because we look like we got a lot of dummies. that are in charge of the new alliance or whatever they want to call themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think she's going to get exactly what she wants. She's going to play them for the fools that they are, and hey, you can't hate. You can't hate. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
There you go.
Well, you remember, like for example, when he first comes to the table with all of them drinking, and those guys have known her for a while, didn't know that she worked with
Gideon.
Gideon.
yeah, Gideon. So they were kind of shocked, like, oh, you worked with Gideon. So they didn't even know he's
Right.
the one that outed her on that. So yeah, I mean, like you said, she was probably in there that wasn't expecting him to come in, and him coming in that kind of just helped her out fulfill her mission.
Yeah, if anything happens, if they do a continuation of what's going to happen after this new alliance or whatever, I don't think that that whatever comes after the new order or whatever, they don't got to worry, man. Sometimes you got to let people beat themselves, and I think that will unfold within the next 30 years or so. They're gonna run out of money. They're gonna run out of resources, and what they're doing is just pure stupidity, you know.
Lozano says Bo is assembling all Mandos, even the ones that worship the flying spaghetti monster. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it says, preach. It is a book with chapters, clearly, because even the book of Boba, it's called the book of Boba. It was a chapter, obviously, yeah. Interesting point about playing like a chess game. I can't wait to see Bo versus the Armorer, says
Samir.
LeBron Fett. And
No, she's
Lozano
gonna go
says,
against Din Jarwin. They've already shown that.
I've known some Elliot Canes in my past. Haven't we all? Haven't we
I
all?
think everybody's had a couple fatal attractions, bro. If you haven't,
Right.
you haven't lived.
Absolutely. Listen, every season of like most good shows have an episode where they sort of take a massive pivot and really start going down a road that we weren't expecting before. This is that episode, in my opinion. I think now we can really see the plot accelerating from here and getting into some very interesting facets. But like I mentioned before, like we've already seen 2 seasons of this show from Favreau and Filoni. Like we've already seen them like just lay the stepping stones along the way. They don't give you everything in one episode. I really think that in order for this to really have the payoff they're looking for, they're really having to do this one step at a time. And I don't know. I'm also taking the word from um, Giancarlo when I last spoke to him. He said this season is going to be off the chain, and I'm full on board with anything that he has to say about this episode. We should see him pretty soon, if you ask me. I mean, 3 episodes in, not too many more left.
Yep.
He's got to show up sooner or later, and I still think we're going to get either a tease or a cameo of somebody even bigger and badder than him for
Can I
sure.
ask Retro Ray a question here?
Huh?
Hey, Ray.
Yeah.
So, as a fan, you being a fan of Star Wars, being a fan of The Mandalorian, what are you looking forward to more, the most this season? I mean, what is it that you really want to see out of this series?
So me, I watched all the animated series. Teasing us with the space wells. I want to see Sabine, possibly. At least some remnants of her, then leading up into Ahsoka, and then we see her more in Ahsoka. That's kind of, I guess. And then also too, I mean, if you guys, any of you guys watch Star Wars Rebels, dude, Chopper was fucking hilarious. If you loved R2D2, dude, Chopper was. It's like when you were seeing Chopper in the cartoon series, it's like you would see. I mean, you just hear beeps, but it's like him cussing out, like he's mad at these
Yeah.
people. He's cussing.
Yeah.
It's freaking hilarious. So I want to see a live action Chopper, either now or in Ahsoka, one of those 2 series.
Nice.
But yeah, it's gonna,
Cool.
especially Ezra Bridger. I want to see that too. There's so much more. I mean, it's just like you just get little teases here and there. It's like I want the whole thing.
Yeah, I got you, man.
Well, this has been a fantastic breakdown. Chapter, not episode, chapter 19. We'll see what happens. I think, like I mentioned, things are getting interesting. Stick around. It's bound to be a lot of fun here. Real quick, in case you missed our post earlier this week, we are having, for the first time ever in our hometown, the first public theatrical screening of Zack Snyder's Justice League, aka the Snyder Cut. It's been 2 years on Saturday that this film has been released. This iconic, epic film. Yes, Red and Stutter. And if you are interested in joining the Countdown City Geeks for this screening, all you got to do is go to the link in the chat, click on the link that's in the post, and join our giveaway mailing list, and we will pick a few more winners to join us this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. In San Antonio. You'll be given the location once once you sign up for the giveaway list. Again, picking a few more winners. It's not over yet, so I also pinned it in the chat, but the Snyder Cut, the first theatrical public showing in our hometown. Cannot wait for that. It's been a long, long, not a dream, but something I had to do is watch this damn movie on a big screen. It wasn't enough to watch it on a TV or projector or anything like that. Even though I did all those things, I need to say that I saw it how it was meant to be seen, and that is on the big screen. And then one last thing, and this is something that you can help us with. There is an individual, Addison Childress, who is undergoing some major medical um, procedures this week, and he's definitely part of the geek community, and he is also um, there is a charity event being put on in his name by a local comic book shop. So if you would please feel free to assist with his expenses. There's a way to donate just by going to that QR code. Again, he works for Heroes and Fantasies, which is the largest comic book store in the state of Texas, and he needs our help, and he's part of the community. And not only that, but the folks at Heroes and Fantasies decided to put together the best way to help him, which is by having a charity giveaway where you can purchase a limited edition comic book cover from Mike Choi. This is a X-23 limited cover. They will be signing and uh, purchasing or selling these covers this Saturday, March 18th from 12 to 2 at the Universal City location of Heroes and Fantasies, and from 3 to 5 at the 410 West location, which is 410 West between, what is it, Callahan and Evers, I believe. If you don't already know the locations, please, please, please look them up, and be sure to go to the nearest one this Saturday, March 18th. All proceeds will be going to his hospital bills, and this is an exclusive limited edition print of X-23. I believe there's 100 or less that they're actually making. So do anything you can. Addison is part of the geek community. He's an employee of Heroes and Fantasies, and this is going to benefit him and his family greatly. So if you're in the San Antonio area, please, please, please help out any way you can, either by going down in person on Saturday or just by going back to that QR code that we put up earlier and helping part of the someone in our geek community out who needs it. Awesome.
And then also too, if y'all don't know who Mike Choi is, he's the artist who did the Punisher art cover with Tim Duncan on the cover. So he's the guy who did the artwork. So he's the guy who did the X-23. He's worked on DC, Marvel. So his artwork is well done. So, and also if you notice detail into the X-23, she's rocking the San Antonio Spurs. Well, it's not the Spurs, it says San Antonio. But you know what it is.
You know. Those are the old school. Those are the old school designs.
Yeah,
The throwbacks, if you will. Absolutely. And listen, I've been a part of this geek community all my life, and I know what they're capable of when you motivate them and you organize them for a great cause. The Ghostbusters community, we put on a toy drive this past winter, and we raised nearly 12,000 toys across the country with 40 different chapters. So if you're again in the San Antonio area or nearby, or if you're not, there's still ways to help Addison with his procedure by going to that QR code and donating anything you can. Again, he's part of the local Heroes and Fantasies network, and he needs our help. So, geeks, stand up, do anything you can. Really appreciate you guys watching. Check us back next week as we break down Chapter 20 and an exciting ride. Looking forward to it. For the Geekcast, my name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me on this episode is one and only Retro Ray.
Going on, guys. Stay tuned. Like us, subscribe. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up, especially next Tuesday. We got something big coming up. You're going to want to be, and you don't want to miss the show.
Absolutely. He's teasing a stream that we're going to be doing with an official Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. I use that term specifically because it's a long known character, actor in the Power Ranger community. The man behind the magic, the one and only Joe Garcia.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, for our long discussion here of The Mandalorian. We look forward to having more of these discussions with you in the future. And like always, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And also give our good friend over here, General Kenobi's Bunker, a follow, and make sure you subscribe to his channel up on YouTube. Great follow, by the way, and very knowledgeable about Star Wars. So great show, guys. Look forward to talking with you all again next week.
Absolutely. One of the best, Jose himself, General Kenobi's Bunker.
Appreciate that, guys. So for you that are following the stream over on General Kenobi's Bunker, I just dropped the link for the giveaway that Ted was talking about. So go check out that link. Go join our mailing list, please, and yeah, win some tickets, win some. Be in touch with us, and we're gonna be emailing you some information about upcoming giveaways, things like that. So definitely, please check out that link. Thank you so much for joining us here. This was, like I said, a little bit of an experiment, cross streaming, between the Countdown to the Geekcast and General Kenobi's Bunker. I hope that you like it. If it goes smoothly, I think this might be the way to go for the rest of the season for Mandalorian. As as you saw, we got some pretty knowledgeable people here, and we can have that much of a richer discussion for each episode. So thanks again for watching, guys. If you haven't, please go follow Countdown City Geeks over on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, basically everywhere. Okay. So thank you on my behalf for the High Ground, another episode. I appreciate you guys. We will come back Friday for another review on the debrief about Bad Batch Season 2. This is going to be for tonight's episode that dropped. So make sure to check on that. Please follow me on Instagram as I post all of the upcoming events there.
And another thing is General Kenobi's Bunker here. When you follow him, he's one of the few Star Wars channels that I know on YouTube that actually can go ahead and talk to you about what's going on with these episodes in Espanol también. So muy bien, General
Yeah.
Kenobi. Muy bien.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, you know what? Who needs sleep? So we decided to launch a second channel, which aptly called General Kenobi's Bunker en Español. And believe it or not, after this, I'm going to record the breakdown for Mandalorian's, this episode. It won't be this long, don't worry, because I would probably die if I keep going. But yeah, so appreciate the shout out. And yeah, guys, definitely go check out General Kenobi's Bunker en Español.
Absolutely. Have a great night, folks. See you next week.